There were 1,000 people in the hall, and I said, my name is Chris Smith. I'm the Labour MP for Islington South and Finsbury, and I'm gay.
A group of us in the Gay Liberation Front hit on the idea of holding a gay pride march to challenge that shameful view.
Equality, and for some people in Stonewall, like me, equality was kind of like what you got to as a starting point.
Welcome to The View From Here, the podcast that explores the lives of key people in the LGBTQ plus movement. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm James. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Today we're joined by Nettie Pollard, an early activist in the Gay Liberation Front and part of Icebreakers, one of the first LGBTQ plus support lines.
Nettie gives us a front row seat on life in the movement and tells us about being a woman in the often male-dominated GLF. You'll hear what it meant to be part of a grassroots revolution and how it changed lives forever. Since recording this episode, Nettie Pollard sadly died on Christmas Day, 2025. Nettie, hi. Thank you for joining us. I wonder if you could tell us a bit about your early life. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in London and grew up there. I had very liberal-minded parents, so when I became gay, there wasn't a problem with either of them, and I think I was more than a little bit fortunate in that.
And roughly when was that? When was the first time you realised you were LGBT?
1971. I mean, not early.
So 1971, you came out to yourself, to your parents, to everyone, kind of at the same time?
Everyone, yes. I'm not wondering how much to tell you, but I mean, my best friend turned out to be gay, and he said he'd been suicidal.
Ooh. How hard was that for you?
Absolutely devastating. And I was so angry. I was just so angry with
at
what
society for putting him.
Well, exactly. Yes, I know. And I just thought, well, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to stopping things like that happening to people like you.
Because it's remarkable to go from coming out to the Gay Liberation Front in the same year.
No, I mean, yes. So what happened was my father noticed this thing about the Gay Liberation Front in the newspaper. And Drake said, "Oh, that might be interesting to go to." So off we went. Your
father spotted.
Yeah, he spotted this thing.
Wow!
And Drake said, "Well, that sounds interesting. Let's go to that." So we went to Middle Earth, and it was an absolute revelation. I mean, it was this enormous dark room with hall, with like 100 people in it, and people kissing and talking about non-monogamy and revolution, and it just seemed like unbelievable.
So I think a lot of people who hear that phrase Middle Earth will think about New Zealand and the Hobbits.
Well, they will, because it was called after that, but it was just it was a place in Covent Garden.
Okay.
It's called Middle Earth.
Wow.
It is where, after the London School of Economics, it's where Gay Liberation went to before it ended up in Notting Hill Gate in All Saints Hall.
Wow. And so 1971, I guess. We've spoken to some people who, when they realized they were gay, they didn't necessarily have a vocabulary for who they were because they didn't see representations of gay people in the media. They hadn't read any books. In 1971, did you feel like, oh, I know what this is?
Oh, yeah, I think I did. But I mean, it was not relevant to me.
Okay.
Why was...
Because I wasn't gay.
Right. So your friend was gay.
That's right, and he told me he was, and as I said, I just said, I'm going to try and stop this happening to other people, and I also found this the most exciting group that there was, the most exciting movement that there was, so I threw myself into being in the Gay Liberation Front.
And you almost motivated by caring for your friend and for that wider community?
Him and everyone else. It was nothing to do with me.
That's so interesting.
I was just a pretty failed heterosexual.
And tell us about the early days of the organisation. What drove you? What was it like to be in those meetings?
Yeah, incredibly exciting. It really was incredibly exciting. And I mean, I like the fact that there was no proper structure, a chairman, all that kind of thing. They had a man and a woman each time who had to chair the meeting. But apart from that, so anyone could speak and anyone could make suggestions, and it was just on a real collective basis. And then there were all the subgroups, dozens and dozens of subgroups.
And you were saying earlier that some of your oldest friends are people you met at that time that you're still in touch with.
Oh yes, I'm still in touch with most. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. Yeah, I mean, obviously not everyone is still here. Sadly, but I've kept in touch with an awful lot of them, or rather got in touch again. There was a sort of period when we weren't in touch, and then there was a big event in 2010 where we all got together again, and then when GLF reformed, we were sort of in touch with everybody. Yeah.
And is that testament to how much of a community was fostered inside GLF? And
just so, what an extraordinary experience we all went through. I mean, I just can't believe that I was part of the most exciting movement that there was.
Yeah.
I mean, because of all these left-wing movements are sectarian and, I mean, I was a member of the Young Communist League, but only for a year. God, what a dreadful organisation it was.
That would have hierarchy, I imagine.
If you talk to John Lloyd, though, he had great time there. He came out at 14 when he was in the Young Communist League. I found it just appalling. It was all these men going, well, when the revolution comes... and then these women pottering around in lots of eye makeup with the tea. I mean, honestly, it was about as bad as it could get.
Oh, man. Wow.
And there was another organisation around at that time, the Campaign for Homosexual Equality, the CHE. What were the differences between the CHE and maybe the Albany Trust, their activist arm, and the GLF?
Well, I mean, the Albany Trust is something different again. But yes, I mean, the CHE was a sort of respectable group. It did very good things with having group meetings and people getting to know each other and building up confidence. And then it did lots of sort of lobbying for law reform, whereas with GLF we weren't really that interested in law reform. Didn't oppose it, but it wasn't really what we were doing. We wanted sexual liberation for everybody.
Did you see GLF and CHE as kind of fitting together as part of a wider
Not
jigsaw,
really.
or completely as
It's a bit different, really. I mean, I did actually join CHE later, but that's much later. But I mean, no, I mean, I wanted to be part of a liberation movement, not a law reform organisation, because law reform, so you can lose lose all these privileges you get, and what's just happened to the trans people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's, I think part of the, I guess for us, motivation of doing this podcast is to showcase what has changed, but also showcase how quickly it can change back if we don't keep fighting.
Yes.
And I think that's
I think that's just so true, which is why, I mean, GLF wanted to join together with other liberation groups. And so we did things like we went they had internment in Northern Ireland in 1971, which is people who hadn't been convicted of anything but were considered to be a danger and were sent to prison. And so, I remember being on the anti-internment demonstration with Andrew Lumsden and Stuart Feather. Yep. And what was so interesting is that when we were on those demonstrations, the police couldn't pick us off the way they did with other people, because if they tried to arrest somebody, we just surrounded them.
Oh, interesting. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we were just, because we were really together, you see, whereas the international Marxist groups or whatever, they were just random people who were, but we had this incredible bond with every other gay person, as we called them then, who was with us. I remember at the Festival of Light, at the big meeting that they had, and the GLF person kissed a policeman, and the policeman sort of went to arrest him, and then sort of he was absolutely surrounded by us all looking at him like that, and then he just went, "Don't do it again." He disappeared. Because it was just like that. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean they never arrested us, because they did. So on occasion, as we know, there were a number of famous court cases, but.
So we've heard about the Festival of Light a few times.
Oh, it was wonderful.
And we know that people
I can't believe I was there.
quite specific roles. What was your role?
No, I didn't actually have a role. I had a ticket, but I really remember Betty Bourne, and I remember the youth group throwing the banner and going Cliff for Queen. And I don't believe in outing people, but I just think very occasionally you might make an exception.
Were you there for the mice?
I was there for the mice, and the nuns were the best. And Betty Bourne go, I see evil here. You know, I can feel evil. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And Michael James changing clothes and going, I'm saved. Oh. I mean, it just you couldn't make it up, and it couldn't happen now because we kept it secret. They didn't know.
Because almost we understand each group didn't know what other groups were going to do. All they knew is the group ahead of
John
them.
Chesterman, and he just organised the whole thing. He was a genius, absolute genius. I mean, he was a very successful architect, had 2 Jaguars and a house by the river in Richmond.
Oh, wow.
And then he said no. So he stopped, and he went and squatted in Colville houses and was a poet and painter.
Wow.
And just didn't want it anymore.
Yeah. And was it important to you that the GLF focused on other projects that weren't exclusively LGBT?
Well, yes, I suppose it would, because I come from a sort of left-wing background, and I think other issues are we're all part of an oppressive society.
Did that ever cause conflict within the organisation? Was there a factor that felt, no, we should only be focusing on LGBT issues?
And probably there were. I mean, I can't remember that particularly, but I mean, obviously, unless you were interested in the wider issues, you wouldn't join those groups.
Right.
I mean, it was an international group and various other ones. We also had a trans group, transsexual, transvestite, and what was the third bit? And something.
Cross-dressers?
No. You'll find it in the record. Yes, and I went to a meeting of that, and I found that really interesting. I never had any problem with the idea of transsexualism. I just thought it's part of sexual liberation. It's part of who we are, and so I mean, some people were a bit worried about having transsexuals involved, but not generally.
You mentioned the committees earlier, and I believe that you were a part of the Counter Psychiatry Committee.
We had no committees. They were groups. So it's not the same thing, you see. I mean, anyone could go. So you didn't have to be elected or anything.
Right.
Yes, every other Sunday we met at 24 Ivor Street, which is where Mickey Burbage and Geoffrey Weeks lived.
And tell us a bit more about the Counter Psychiatry Group and what its purpose was and why you felt that needed to be there.
Well, I think it was partly because of being gay, being I'm not going to do LGBT because in those days it was gay. Gay meant everybody, including transvestites. Interestingly enough, because they're not necessarily even sort of homosexual.
Was that a media catch-all expression, and something that you adopted to try to liberate that expression?
We did that, yeah.
In the same
that came up.
Queer has been liberated subsequently as well.
But then, I mean, obviously there were problems with it because it wasn't. It was then started to be thought of as just as gay men, and then there were all the problems that we've now got the ridiculous alphabet soup.
It's quite a lot of alphabet.
It's a lot of alphabet.
It's a lot of alphabet. Yes, because of homosexuality being considered to be an illness, or crime and an illness, but particularly an illness that needed to be cured. With therapy and with aversion therapy and things like that. So we did a lot of work on that, including organising a conference which was aimed partly at professionals that we held at the LSE in December 1971.
Say more about that. I mean, I'm really interested in that. So that was
some people did actually come, and Charlotte Wolfe came, and a few other people who actually were in the profession.
Oh, interesting.
But all the speakers were GLF, including Paul Bunting and Mary McIntosh, And you'll find a list somewhere of who spoke. It was really impressive. I brought my mother.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was and my friend Jim Scott from GLF said, "Your mother? Oh, I thought that was some terrible old dyke from the what's the name of the women's club? The big lesbian club that was started in the 1930s and not long ago, and there had been a TV documentary about it recently."
Yes, and the name has gone out of my head as well. I'm so sorry. But we'll find that out for you, everybody, and we'll say it at the end.
I told you my parents were quite interested in these things.
Yeah, sounds like they were. You have extraordinary parents as well. And so in this conference that you organised, you had professional.
Professional what?
Professional
people coming to it
to the conference.
Yes, to learn. That's right. Yeah.
And were they open-minded? Were they there to kind of think?
I think they gave them something to think about. Yeah.
And almost rethink some of their professional practices, what they taught at university, and
yes, I suppose they were obviously more liberal people, or they wouldn't have been there. But it was just beginning to think. So perhaps it isn't an illness. Perhaps it isn't something that needs to be cured.
Yeah.
And then that's part. I mean, again, that was the whole thing with GLF. There's nothing wrong with us.
Yeah.
We love.
Yeah.
We want revolution.
Yeah. We're not ill.
There's nothing wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just who we are.
It's not something we've chosen either. This is the way we are.
Yeah.
Did the organisation feel very independent to the US organisation, or did you tend to follow their lead?
No. I think we were completely independent, really.
Could you tell us about Icebreakers?
And Icebreakers came out of the Counter Psychiatry Group, because we were sitting.
Which was the group that organised the conference.
Which is the group that organised the conference and various other things, and did the psychiatry and the homosexual brief analysis of oppression. Which is the pamphlet that we brought out, which, amongst other things, by the way, introduced the world to Alan
Turing.
I'm sorry about the brain fog.
Not at all.
It just does. All these things I know perfectly well, and suddenly I can't remember them because of the long COVID. Yeah, that was the first time anyone had ever heard of him.
Okay.
Wow.
Andrew Hodges wrote that, and he's subsequently wrote books and films about it, and we all know what happened.
Yeah, of course.
But I was horrified to hear about that.
Yeah.
I really was. I had no idea. I didn't know there was a code breaker called that, or that he was gay, or that he'd been persecuted in the way he was. Icebreakers. So one day we were just thinking, what can we do about the fact that most gay people just don't have the confidence to join GLF. They couldn't join it exactly because it had no members, but become part of the movement. And we thought, well, maybe if we could set up a sort of telephone helpline, and it would help introduce people to GLF. And so a core group of us from Counter Psychiatry got together, and then eventually, and then there was quite a long time before we could find some premises. And by then, it wasn't just a case of getting people into GLF, because GLF was beginning to sort of collapse. Right. So it was obviously obvious that we needed something much wider than that. So we were a self-selecting group. So we did the phone every day of the year.
Every day?
Yeah, every
day. Wow.
Every day from 7:30 till 10.
So people could ring in those hours. So they knew that they could ring.
Yeah, and they'd speak. So what is the thing on the sticker say? Isolated homosexual women and men can ring Icebreakers any day of the week between 7:30 and 10 and speak to another gay person.
Right, and that was a big part of it. Was someone that could relate to what they were going through, that had been through
exactly.
The same
so
thing themselves.
That we felt happy and and content with who we were.
Yeah.
And so we got just thousands of calls. I mean, the phone line was always busy, and the variety of people was just incredible again.
Yeah. And what sort of circumstances do people call from? I'm sure you heard every story.
Yeah,
so I'm sure some of them are quite harrowing as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, we had people who were suicidal. I remember this man rang up and said he was suicidal at that moment. And then, unlike other groups, what we did, because we did really think it might be true. We actually just there were 3 of us there, so 2 of us actually went, just got into my car and we drove to where he said he was going to throw himself off the bridge.
Oh, wow.
And rescued him.
Oh, he was there.
He was there, and one of the things that we offered was called tea parties, and that is every Sunday at somebody's house or flat. We'd run a tea party for anyone that had rung up. You might want to meet other people, because obviously most people were really isolated in those days. So we had tea parties every Sunday, and then every Friday evening we had women's tea parties, which was just for the women, because in those days, it was so much harder for women, and there were so far fewer lesbians around, because so it was a case of agreeing support and, and also opportunities for having sex and romance and, and just having a good time. So you just came for as many times as you wanted. You'd be told where the next tea party was. I mean, it was extraordinary. I mean, we weren't vetted in any way, and we were completely open of what we did. I mean, we knew that we might easily be charged with something like conspiracy to corrupt public morals, or because we didn't have any lower age limit on what people,
right? Okay.
So we had people like me with 12 and things like that. We might go and meet them. And, because we may easily have, people may have committed buggery because of ringing us, we're underage. And so we really knew that it was a possibility. And if it was now, we probably would all have been arrested.
How did you cope with some of the harrowing stories that you heard, that you were putting yourself in a position of probably quite traumatic stories being told to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
How did
and I mean, obviously we also meet people one-to-one quite often if they were in a really bad state, just as we go and meet them and have tea and things like that, and then maybe later try and get them to come to a tea party, maybe meet us before and then come in. Yes, I mean, people who do, lesbians who'd lost their children, because in custody, things like that were really terrible.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the experience for lesbians at that time? Because, typically you hear about the experiences for gay men, you hear about the importuning, you hear about the raids on the cottages, but you don't hear as much about the terrible things that women went through at that time, losing their children. Can you share a bit about what you're experiencing?
I mean, I didn't have bad experiences because I wasn't in that position, and I wasn't, and at that point I wasn't even a lesbian.
Yeah.
So yippee! I managed to later on, which is great. But no, I didn't go through all those terrible things. But yes, I mean, women in general. I mean, they just had. I mean, we didn't. At that point, we didn't have equal pay. We didn't have anti-discrimination. Rape was legal, not actually criminal in marriage. Assaulting partners within reason, again, was not against the law. It was everything. And I mean, women were expected to get married. So lesbians generally did. I mean, I remember in the women's group, was saying, was there anyone who hadn't had sex as a man? And there was only one person that hadn't. And these were all proper lesbians.
And that was societal pressure, parental
Did
pressure.
have it, you're meant to have a boyfriend and
when to get married,
to get married. And I mean, that the pressure on men too, but not to the same extent. Because women, got to have a job, and you've got to have a somewhere to live, and I just think things were much, much harder. And women were considered to be inferior. I mean, it's really, I really remember that kind of thing, really irritatingly. I remember when I was like about 5, and we had this do at my school, and there was an ice cream van there, and they gave me the ice cream free. And I said, "Oh, why do you think they did that?" And they said, "I think it's because your dress was so pretty." And I just thought, "Oh God, there's nothing against pretty dresses, really, but how oh no, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't be part of any of that. So I sort of rejected the whole heterosexist society, even though I wasn't actually attracted to women.
Was it, because part of it was rejecting also the kind of male-dominated patriarchal society.
yeah, absolutely.
And did you find that inside the campaigning work as well?
Well, it really was dominated by men, and there was a real problem with that. I mean, they were really interested in men's issues. And they'd say, well, gay people cottage. And I'm thinking, well, hardly any women, actually. What you mean is men.
Right.
You know, and anyhow, why is it that you're so obsessed with? And men tended to be very dominant at the meetings, at the big meetings, that is. That was much less true in the subgroups, and certainly not in Counter Psychiatry, which was, I mean, it was mainly men, but there was no...
And that's sort of towards the end of the GLF, which burned brightly, but for quite a short time. I think one of the sort of senses is that a lot of women said, this isn't a place for us, really.
I quite understand that.
And did that precipitate?
Yes, so the women did eventually walk out. I didn't, but I think that definitely both sides were much poorer for it afterwards. The gay women's liberation never really came to anything. Right. And the rest of the gay liberation front sort of started fizzling out. But then I think maybe it was sort of one of those bright, magical things that couldn't have lasted because there was just so much energy. It was like...
Yeah.
You know, and we were going in all these directions and doing all these different things that were arts and protest and writing leaflets and demonstrating and...
And can you tell us a bit about where you think that energy came from? What was it about 1971, that early part of the 70s?
I think it was coming out of other radical movements like the anti-Vietnam War, women's liberation, black liberation, children's liberation, the hippies. And there was a lot of energy there. And these weren't what I might call the average gay people. I mean, you know, they tended to be the more sort of artistic and political type of people who really wanted to change things and have a lot of fun as well. I mean, you know, the thing is, GLF was enormously fun. We really, really had such fun.
I think that's part of what's so important about this is that campaigning, activism can be fun. You can make lifelong friends. You can be part of something so big and so much bigger than yourself, but also when you feel like you're making progress.
Yes, and we did. I mean, because, you could do something every day of the week pretty well. You know, because Monday I'd go to... Because I just absolutely threw myself into this and I believed that we should come out totally. And therefore I wore a Gay Liberation Front badge everywhere all the time.
Wow.
You could do things just the whole time. I mean, on Monday there was the action group, which met in the GLF office in Caledonian Road. Tuesday was the Red Lesbian Brigade, which was a little radical lesbian bit, which went out and did things like spray paintings and went to the stock exchange and spray painted it "Sod the Cockbrokers."
Oh, wow.
You remember only men were allowed in.
Wow.
And we did. It was such fun, yeah. And then Wednesday was the big meetings, which might be up to about 500 people. And I mean, those are just so exciting to just be with so many people all pushing in the same direction.
So every week up to 500 people.
Yeah, it could be as many as that. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Somewhere. I mean, it varied, and of course nobody was counting, which was wonderful. And then Thursday was Camden GLF because I was living in Highgate at the time, so that's local for me. And then that was Thursday. Then Friday was the women's group. So I was in Notting Hill Gate, and I'd go to that. And then Saturday, there might be a demo or making banners or doing something else or have a think-in, or maybe not, maybe have a day off. And then Sunday was, every other Sunday was Counter Psychiatry. But I mean, there were so many groups. I mean, there were about, 30 groups, something like that. I mean, night workers, the Jewish group, media workshop, street theatre, endless different groups.
And how did you form a group? You just said, I want to form a group, and you
Yeah,
did.
people just said, "Oh, let's have a." Yeah, it's basically that. I remember at a main meeting and say, "Well, we haven't got a group for Jewish people. Why don't we have a Jewish group? And they can meet at my place." You know, I think that was Michael Brown. I think was the person that suggested that.
Okay.
They said, "Well, okay, so here's the address, and off we go."
Presumably, sooner or later, there weren't enough days in the week for all the things.
Oh no, there's no way, no.
Everything
You
overlapped.
you could do. Yes, no, there were about 20 groups, I think, most of the time. So, yes.
No wonder this was a community you're still in touch with,
Yeah.
because you
You
spent
met-
so much time with people.
Well, I also met so many people. You know, I mean, I really got to know so many people. And it's interesting that you're still in touch because it was pre-internet. I mean, if you have something now, then everybody's exchanging all their emails and WhatsApps and Facebook profile, you know.
It does, I mean,
And this is before anything like that. People didn't even have, not everyone even had telephones. I mean, most people did, but a landline.
Landline.
yeah, the landline. In the sense that it was pre-internet, does it also mean it was quite localized to London? And so if you wanted to get really involved in the way that you were, you could only really do that if you lived.
No, there were other groups like Leeds, for instance.
Okay. And they were sort of connected loosely, or
Loosely.
right?
Yeah.
So we heard someone say that actually that spreading out of the GLF, the fact that you started to get local chapters around the place, diluted it somewhat. Did you feel that way?
No. I don't think so. No, I don't know. I mean, the only one I was involved with at local, was the Camden GLF.
Okay.
And I don't think that had any effect on the main one. One thing that we did that was really fun was we decided to crash that means go without an invitation, the time-out party in Piccadilly.
I have never heard this story. Please tell us.
Right, so we've all piled into my car because we didn't care about how many people were in the car in those days, so we had about 7 or 8 of us in my car. It was quite a big car.
Oh, good. I was going to say, I hope it wasn't a Mini.
No, it wasn't a mini, it was an Anglia estate.
Yeah.
And we just went to the theatre where I was doing, and the most forward of us just said, GLF Street Theatre. And then we just walked in.
Charged right through the doors.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Bobby, who was a trans part of GLF, was really performing there. Not quite sure what pronoun Bobby actually used. Maybe it's they. Anyhow, but and Bobby did a striptease.
Oh, wow.
And, and sort of the beautiful breasts and everything. And then at the at last moment, he opened his legs and his penis and balls come out. And you just should have seen them.
Oh, wow.
I mean, all these trendy time-out sort of sophisticated London people. They'd never seen anything like that before.
Wow.
And that was a part of the actual...
That was actually part, yes. But it's just we were nothing to do the streets. We just went in as well.
Wonderful. And I believe the GLF was involved in the protest of the Miss World pageant at the Albert Hall.
Yes, that I went to the one in 1971. Obviously, not the one in 1970 because I wasn't there, and we had people dressed up as in drag, sort of misused and misunderstood. Yeah.
Misused is a very good drag.
Yeah, that's right. There's some great photographs of that, and then we were all linking arms, sort of round the Albert Hall, and this police officer came and started to put his hands through. This wasn't actually someone from GLF, the man that I was linked arms with. And he went like that, and I went, I can see what you're doing, PC 651 or whatever it was. And so he suddenly just let go. But I thought, what was he thinking of?
Wow.
But, I mean, it was a really joyous occasion. We went to the Oz trial and things like that.
What was the Oz trial?
The Oz trial was, Oz was what's called an underground magazine that was run by 3 editors. Jim Anderson, who was in GLF, and Dennis, who was later the founder of The Week and various others, and became a very successful business person, and Richard Neville, who was a sort of underground activist from Australia. And so they'd have this underground magazine with all sorts of subversive articles. And one day they thought, I know, let's have a school kids Oz. So they had an issue of Oz written entirely, Felix Dennis, that's all, entirely by people who were still at school, and including all sorts of highly political and highly obscene articles. And Viv Berger wrote one called Gypsy Rupert Bear and Gypsy Granny, where Rupert Bear was fucking Gypsy Granny. I mean, it was quite whole cool stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's only cartoons. It was a joke, you know. And so the state decided to prosecute for conspiracy to corrupt public morals.
Wow.
And so they were all taken to court, and they were on remand, and they cut their hair because obviously they all had very long hair, and they cut them sort of prison haircuts, and anyhow, and eventually they were exonerated and everything was overturned. But GLF took a big part in the demonstrations outside the Old Bailey.
Gosh, wow. And tell us a little bit, if you can, about the ending of the GLF.
Can't tell you very much, really, because I became active in the April, and then by the February afterwards, I'd met another woman, and GLF was fading then anyway, and we became very active in Claimants Union in Tottenham and squatting and that kind of thing. So they very much openly with our GLF badges the whole time. But I didn't really go very much because it was fading. It was just, and it just wasn't exciting the way it was.
Yeah. Must have been a big,
and it was sad.
A big change in life to go from every single day of the week to be doing something with GLF.
Well, except I was doing other things.
Right. Similar, but with a similar objective, similar activism.
Yeah, but I was continuing to be an activist. I just wasn't. I mean, of course, I know at that point I wasn't doing Icebreakers, because that didn't start immediately, as I've told you. It didn't start till 1973, by which time GLF virtually didn't exist.
Oh, really? So it was clear it was coming to an end.
It was pretty much an end.
It was just running down. I mean, you can't have that level of ideas and new initiatives and energy permanently. That's why something like CHE could continue and continue and continue and continue, because it was all committees and, socials and, and lots of good stuff, but completely different. Yeah. Mm. I mean, there wasn't really practically nobody who was in GLF was also in CHE. Isn't that interesting? Mm. I mean, I wasn't to begin with, though I was later. And indeed, I was on the executive committee of CHE from 2010 or 11.
And tell us a bit about that. How was the transition for you to go to, I guess, an establishment organization from these revolutionary counterculture organizations?
Well, no, I mean, I'd also worked for the National Council for Civil Liberties. Okay. So I was doing gay rights work there, amongst other things. And so I was working with the establishment there. So, I mean, yes, I was sort of used to doing that. Yeah, I mean, I see it was it's a very, very pleasant organisation with very friendly, nice people, but not any kind of revolutionary aims.
And if you look back at your very long career of activism, are there some points that you think, oh, I'm super proud of that?
Yeah, I think, well, a number of things, really. I think going to Festival of Light, I was just so proud to be there. I really, really was. And indeed to be on the first Gay Pride March, because it was called a Gay Pride March then. And, I think it was actually the march before I was more proud to be on, which was, there was the actual Gay Pride March, which was in July 1972. But in 1971, the youth group organised a march against the age of consent.
Really?
Yes. And so the youth group really was a youth group. If you were over 21, you could go to one meeting. So I was 21 and I went to one meeting in Tufnell Park. I mean, that was just such a revelation. I mean, everyone there was under 21, something like 14.
Oh, wow.
And they were so confident and so full of ideas. And they got it together to organise the first ever sort of march. I mean, they also organised the Gay Pride March as well, though that's not well known. People think like it was Andrew Lumsden that organised, and he didn't. He went on it. He was involved in it.
So the youth
group... But it was the youth group did it, but it did both marches.
Based on their experience of doing the march the year before and saying...
Probably. But they went, sure, and it was quite successful and quite big.
And that first march against the age of consent, what was that like? Yes, tell us about it.
Well, I mean, there were quite a lot of people there, not that many, a couple of hundred, say, something like that, and very radical, and people getting up on stage saying, "Did you wait till you were 21?" And and then they had people kissing on the stage, and we went to after the march, we went to Hyde Park, and. Do you know, I'm mixing it up a bit with something with the Pride March. Anyhow, whichever it was, and it doesn't matter because this bit is absolutely true. We all went to Hyde Park, and most of the men just took all their clothes off. Including the said Andrew Lumsden, who later had to go in to work at the time, so he had a business suit on. He took everything off, and so did all the others.
Oh wow!
And then all dancing round and kissing, and the police just didn't know what to. They just what do you do with a load of people? If it's one person, they could start arresting them.
Strength in numbers. That was the whole nature and the basis.
Yeah, that was the Pride one.
Yeah,
that was where that one happened. Yeah, and yeah, we were playing aims and playing this thing, spin the bottle thing, and then you have to go and kiss the person that's there. But remember, even sort of passionate kissing could be described as some sort of gross indecency. People had actually been prosecuted for kissing, and we just challenged all that. Completely. Being in the women's group, I'm just taking. We had it started off. We met at Mary McIntosh's house, 37 Arundel Square, in Islington, so we met on a Friday night and talked and planned actions and things like that, and people would be drinking beer and I felt, oh gosh, I shouldn't be here. I really shouldn't be here because I'm not a lesbian. But luckily nobody ever asked me. Believe it or not, I'd never had to lie. And I was obviously very committed, and so we had some really good. We did some zaps, and we did all sorts of really, really good things. And we went on women's liberation marches and as a sort of contingent, and the abortion marches as well. And we brought a lot of the men with us to that, I'm pleased to say.
When you say you did zaps, what?
Well, things like going to Harley Street and whitewashing the road with slogans about aversion. So it's the kind of thing that GLF did. And then we moved to Notting Hill Gate to Faraday Road, where it was a women's squat.
Okay.
But though Richard Dipple was one of the people who helped form the Gay Men's Press later.
Oh right, okay.
And so he was one man, and there were 7 or 8 women. And then we'd meet there on a Friday. It was a completely different atmosphere then, because that was all dope smoking. That wasn't the beer. So we moved from being sort of working class type atmosphere to this sort of rather hippie.
Right. And so I asked you about the proud bits. Is there anything that you look back on and you think, oh, I wish we hadn't done that?
Probably. I think some people who are sort of like saying heterosexuality was rubbish and things like that. I think that was a pity. But there wasn't very much of that, really, to be honest.
And looking at the world today and looking at young people, and one of the things we're hoping that young people will listen to this, which is why we've done it in this format. Do you have a message from a lifetime of activism?
Yes, I mean, I would say don't trust the establishment. Organise.
When you look at the world today, what parallels do you see from your history of activism and your experiences going back?
I think it's working collectively. I mean, we didn't invent that, but it was essential to the way we work. The fact that it was an egalitarian thing where everybody's view could be taken into view, and anyone could, for instance, if we have these things called think-ins, which is, and let's say it's things like, I think we should, somebody would get up and say, I think we should talk about the position of women in the organisation. Why don't we have a think-in on it? And so then we'd hire somewhere and go there on a Saturday, and then everybody sit round and talk about women. I mean, I remember that one particularly. And I mean, that just came from somebody who just said it would be a good idea. And then the next thing you know, we got sort of like 60 people who've turned up and want to talk about it.
Wow. And I guess there's this sense that for a lot of people kind of growing up now, well, we've won equality, we've got the legal change. What more is there to fight for? And I think you would disagree with that idea strongly.
Absolutely disagree. As I said in a few years ago, my interview in Gay Times, think Trump, think Bolsonaro from Brazil. They're going to take things back. I mean, I think they're going to. I think it's highly likely that they're going to try aversion therapy, conversion therapy for trans people. I noticed from yesterday's news, because they're not recognising trans people. And I just think it's all an illness, and and trans healthcare is assault, and many people think they're going to stop same-sex marriage as well. I think it is. I mean, it varies from state to state, doesn't it? But
in America, yeah.
There is I think there's going to be quite an anti-gay thing happening in America, and that it can easily come here. It really can, because I don't think everyone's as comfortable with it as we think they are.
We haven't fully won hearts and minds.
I don't think so, no. And I think that the latest trans issue decision, which is so popular, is really worrying. Yeah. It's as though, women have this terrible danger from trans women. No, it's from men. And it's the state.
Yeah.
Your stories of your activism, the work that you've done, the work on Icebreakers and obviously GLF has been just absolutely extraordinary. And it's been amazing to hear your story today.
I mean, I can't believe I've had such an exciting life. Because I sort of thought, I'm just going to be an unsuccessful heterosexual, won't really meet anybody, and I probably would work be aged 40 and I'd be working in a library and my parents will have died, and oh dear. And then suddenly, the stars, just the amount of excitement I've had in my life, and being part of this sort of incredible movement, and having all these friends and lovers, and it's just been wonderful.
Not just exciting, but it's been impactful. You've made a huge difference to so many people's lives, including the person that you met on the bridge, but so many other people's lives in terms of the changes that you've made into culture, hearts and minds, legal frameworks, and society more generally. So thank you for all of your decades of activism, and I found this so inspiring. We found this inspiring, and hope other people do too.
Thank you for listening to The View from Here. Of course, there's a lot of politics in any movement, but the political views you've heard across the series don't necessarily reflect the views of the podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a review, as well as sharing the word on social media. Join us next time for more personal stories from the front lines of LGBTQ+ history.